Do you feel like guys like Macklin Celebrini or Connor Bedard feel fired up about hockey every single day? Like they're buzzing to train, they love every single rep, and they can't wait to get to the rink every single time they go? I'm making this video for a player who believed that. He told me, I think I'm losing my passion for hockey because he looked at guys just like that and felt guilty that he wasn't obsessed with hockey 24/7. Now keep in mind, this kid has a lot of skill, he shows up, he trains hard, and he does all the extra work you'd expect a high-level player to do. But lately going to the rink fell flat for him. Extra shots felt like homework, and training started to feel like a job for him. What makes it worse is the points aren't coming, the coach isn't giving him the chances he earned, and he feels like the effort just isn't paying off. Now here's the thing, you're not lazy or weak for dealing with this. You're stuck in a story in your mind that says if you don't feel obsessed about hockey every single day, then maybe hockey isn't for you. But if you're dealing with this, I made this video specifically for you to understand that that is not true. We're going to break down exactly what's going on in your mind and how to break through this story so you don't tap out right before hockey gets good and your career starts to actually take off. Now, you didn't start hockey because you love the early mornings, the bus rides, the video sessions, the hard cardio sessions. You started it originally because it was fun. When you're a little kid, it was just ripping around with your buddies, mini sticks in the basement, shinny on the outdoor rinks. But then at some point it shifted. You made a AAA team. Maybe you watched the World Juniors. Maybe you saw a guy like Bedard or Celebrini, or if you're older, somebody like Crosby. And then you thought, I want that. I want to see how far I can go with my hockey career. That was the spark. Now, it's important to understand that nobody signs up for the hard path for no reason. They're pulled into the path of pursuing a high-level hockey career. You have a dream of where you could go, a standard you want to live up to, a feeling of I can get to a certain level on the ice, I can play a certain way, or you want to be like your favorite player, or maybe like your dad who played at a high level. Now, when you're young, you didn't really have this at all. You probably just were excited to play. Then you had that kind of secondary spark, like I said, where now everything feels exciting and everything's new to you because you're really developing and you're starting to move up maybe to a AAA level, and you start to see, okay, I'm on a new team, I'm in new tournaments, I have new gear, I have a new identity of who I am as a player. And maybe you start to picture yourself as, oh man, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be the star player that everybody loves. And you dream about playing D1 or playing in the NHL and having scouts in the stands who watch you all the time. But here's the part that most serious players never actually get told. That early excitement and that momentum you feel, it's not proof you were meant for it. It's just the spark or the ignition switch that got you inspired to really push and pursue this high-level goal of playing to be the best player you can be or play at the highest level you can. Basically, every kid who sticks with hockey past house league or even rep hockey had that ignition moment. And that ignition is supposed to fade. That's what most people miss. It's important to realize that's how your brain works. Anything new and exciting eventually becomes normal. And so if you're a parent watching this, if their excitement has dropped, it doesn't mean they don't care or they're not meant to be a great hockey player. It might just mean that the newness wore off and now the real work has actually started. It's important to realize they're not broken. The brain is just adjusting from this is fun and new to this is something I'm actually committed to, and they basically become a pro before they become a pro player. So where most players get messed up here is they think that ignition is supposed to stay on forever. So when it doesn't, players like you, the player I'm making this for, they decide something is wrong with them. Now, quick pause before we go on. If this is already landing with you and you want help building the mental side of your game so this stuff becomes instinct, there's 2 links below that you can check out. The first link will show you what it looks like to work with us inside Identity Shift, and it lets you actually apply if you feel interested. And keep in mind, there's a process we go through to make sure we select players that we know we can help so you can apply, and then we'll reach out and let you know if we think we can help. And then if you want more free training and an actual structure, worksheets, audio sessions to start really working on your mental game, the second link is to the free training. Again, these are skills that I've taught to AAA, junior, D1, pro players all the way up to the AHL. So check that out if you want to check out some free training. Again, click the first link if you're interested in actually working with us and building a system to install all this stuff into your mind. So the problem I see for so many players is that a lot of players quietly believe if I really love hockey, I should feel motivated all the time. And this happens because players see videos of Bedard when he was younger, and the neighbors would say, oh, they would always hear the banging of the pucks hitting the tarp because he was just shooting all the time. Or Crosby shooting in his basement and destroying his washer and dryer. And you see quotes about outworking everybody and you should be obsessed and you should follow your passion. So as a player, if you're a pro, you're college, junior, or even AAA, if you feel tired, you feel flat, annoyed, unmotivated, then your brain goes, well, if I loved it enough, I wouldn't feel like this. And maybe if I don't love it, maybe I'm not really built to be a hockey player. But what nobody tells you and nobody told me is that feelings swing with how much sleep you've had, how fatigued you are, school, exams, assignments, whether it's confidence and ice time and how well things are going there, whether it's team drama, whether it's having a crazy coach, maybe it's stress at home, maybe it's hormonal stuff as you start growing and hitting puberty, that also plays a factor. It's important to realize that motivation is like a weather report. It's information, but it's not a compass this to say you have to do this because you feel a certain way. Just like if it actually rains outside doesn't mean you can't do sprints. If you have a sad emotion, it doesn't mean you can't go work out. It doesn't mean you can't push yourself and do extra stuff. You don't just have to be passionate to work hard to pursue your goals. Hockey can be something that can be difficult and challenging and still mean you're on the right track and there's nothing wrong with you. So it's important to realize that losing excitement doesn't mean you don't care. It means you're human. And this is where players and parents will oftentimes clash. So players might feel emotion first, like frustration and I don't want to do this anymore, but parents see the big picture and talk more logically. A parent might say, hey, I know that you can get through this. I know you're going to make this work. And the player says, yeah, but I don't enjoy this. This isn't fun. And if this is what it's going to be like forever, I don't want to do this anymore. And the thing is, neither person is wrong, but they're just speaking in different languages. So the player thinks, if I don't feel fired up, then something's wrong. And then the parent thinks, we've put money, time, and effort into this, so just push through it and make it work and you'll get through it. So then everybody ends up frustrated and the real problem just hasn't been explained yet. So parents, you're not trying to basically break your kids' emotions with logic. Your job is to help them learn how to act even when they have really loud and powerful emotions. Because having big feelings doesn't mean a player's soft. That's the thing that gets mixed up. Large emotions just mean you're actually invested in the thing you're doing. So it's important to realize that the frustration, pain, doubt, and I want to quit thoughts, they're not a sign that something's wrong. They're actually a part of the price you pay to pursue a big goal. And what I mean is that any meaningful goal has a cost baked into it. You don't get to chase higher levels, more ice time, junior, college, and pro without paying in pressure, discomfort, disappointment, nights where you feel like trash and you feel like you're not good enough. So instead of seeing those feelings as proof you're messed up, I want you to see those as receipts that you paid the price in order to get to the next level. So if you feel sick after a turnover, that's an investment. You feel gutted when you get scratched, it means you care. You have those maybe I should just quit thoughts. That's not proof you chose the wrong plan. That's the universal hard chapter in the long journey of playing at the top level. And every serious player hits this point. Even if you make the NHL, the best players in the world, even Connor McDavid or Connor Bedard, guys like that, they still hit these points too. It just happens in the NHL as opposed to some players where this might happen in AAA hockey. So every serious player has a point where they think about walking away, the urge to escape the pressure and just get out of the spotlight. And the thing is, most players just don't say this out loud. So if you're there right now and you're feeling these feelings, you're thinking these thoughts, you're not an outlier. You're just in the same chapter that every player has to go through at some point. So parents, realize that if your kid is moody or discouraged or saying things like, I don't even know if I like hockey anymore, or I'm not sure I want to do this, or this isn't fun to me anymore, that's usually the evidence that they actually do care deeply about it. And now they're feeling the weight of what that commitment actually costs. So this isn't a character flaw, it's what commitment feels like when it stops being fun. So this isn't a moment to automatically pull the plug and say, okay, let's stop investing in their career. It means this is a moment to help them understand what's actually happening. And the fact that they feel so much emotion means they do care. And that's a good thing overall. They just have to learn to, again, keep taking actions through it. Now, here's a really interesting twist. Most players don't actually quit in the painful moments, which you'd think. A lot of times they actually start to quit in the flat moments. So as a player, once you get past these stages of pain, which again might happen in AA, AAA, junior, college, or pro, then what ends up happening is that a lot of times you don't necessarily feel excited anymore. It actually starts to feel repetitive. And if you talk to any high-level D1 player, high-level pro player, they're all going to tell you that they've been through the stage. You go to the same rink, you do the same type of drills, you run the same type of systems, the same type of bus rides, the same kind of teams, and even the mistakes you make keep feeling the same. You missed that read again, you made the same turnover, you get the same feedback from the coach. And the danger here is that it isn't too hard. The danger is that it just starts to feel ordinary and kind of boring. So you don't have any big highs or big lows, just more of the same. And most players don't quit because it's impossible here. They quit because it starts to feel flat. So you get past the pain and you get past the difficulty, and then you start to get bored. And then you're thinking, well, if I was meant to do this, I'd feel more excited and I couldn't wait to get to the rink. If I really loved it, I wouldn't feel like this was a grind. But in reality, the flat phase is where the separation actually happens, is where you're trying to get to. This is basically where future pros quietly get built. The key is you need to get past that painful stage, and then you need to get into this boring stage. And then in this boring stage, you have to keep showing up, keep shooting the extra pucks, keep acting as if you were inspired. Because if you keep watching the video, studying it, then creating a plan for the week, going and taking action, reflecting, learning again, you will make improvements while other people go and party and slack off and say, oh, I'm playing pretty well, things are working, and that can't be you. And this is the thing, is you have to keep doing that even though you're not obsessed 24/7. And what you have to say to yourself is, this still matters to me. I still set the high standard even though I don't feel excited every single moment. So as a parent, when it starts to get repetitive, usually this happens after kind of the second half and they start to go into, let's say, maybe the last 30% of the season. The goal isn't just to hype them up. It's to teach them to be steady, help them understand that this is the moment where a real pro steps in. You want to start to get excited by the details instead of the bigger picture. You may not be having these giant wins or big changes in momentum, and so you have to think of this as the time where you actually see the grind and you see the battle as the excitement. So the key in the flat phase, there's a trap. The question becomes, what is the mental skill I really need to apply in this stage? And that skill isn't being able to motivate yourself. It's actually something called frustration tolerance. In hockey language, frustration tolerance basically means how many reps can you do? How many times can you face adversity? How many times can you get scratched or yelled at by the coach? Or how many times can you make a mistake? How many reps can you do after practice? How many times can you do a drill really well without bailing on your standards and just kind of getting distracted or saying, oh, I want to totally change my game? How long can you keep sticking with something despite failing, despite things getting off course? Because if you can stick with it, if you can keep taking the actions during those times, that is frustration tolerance, and that's what allows you to get through those times when most players quit. So what this means is staying in the pocket, staying in the flow after a bad shift, sticking with your routine after a bad game instead of getting distracted or sleeping for an extra 4 hours and being sad, or finishing your shooting reps when you'd rather go grab your phone or go leave and go to a party. Ultimately, the player who wins long term, it's not the one who's the most hyped up in July or August. It's the one who keeps showing up when it's flat, even when it's painful, when it's repetitive, when it's not fun. And that doesn't mean never rest, but it means rest and then reset and then take action again. The best players in the world, like Connor Bedard, like Celebrini, like Sidney Crosby, they know when it's time to work, and it doesn't matter how they feel. They take the action. They have routines. Go study Sidney Crosby. Look at him. He has very consistent routines that have allowed him to stay pretty much at the top of the hockey world for like 20 years. It's not a coincidence. It's not just natural talent. It's because he's stuck with this stuff. And for parents, this is what you're actually trying to teach your kid, even if you use different words. But it often lands very different coming from a coach or a mentor versus a parent. So when you say it, they probably say, oh, okay, cool, awesome job, mom and dad. I'm glad you told me that. But the thing is, you're not trying to turn them into a robot. You're trying to actually help them learn that you can feel frustrated and you can still do the rep. You can have this thing come up, but you can still take action. And again, that's why there's a whole system we've developed to help players do this. And once you build that skill, something really cool happens. When you have frustration tolerance, the pain stops feeling random and it starts feeling useful. It starts feeling like when you feel pain, you know that something good is coming because you're the one who's pushing through it. And so ultimately, when you stop running from discomfort, it turns into information. The pain becomes feedback. So instead of when you have an emotion, you say, this sucks, I hate it, you start asking, okay, what is this emotion trying to show me? And it's oftentimes giving you feedback of, okay, you struggle, you pay attention, you adjust something real in your game, then you feel better, and then the next level reveals itself and you take the next step in your game. So maybe you're struggling with offensive zone entries and you feel a lot of frustration around it. So instead of numbing yourself with your phone, you actually start to study the zone entries and figure out, why is this not working? And you start to lean into that. And maybe it actually feels bad to study your own film and then to study NHL players because you're like, I can't figure this out. But if you keep sticking with it during that time, you start to learn the key details you need to learn to actually improve the skill. Most people think, I need to be passionate to go and look at the film. I need to be excited about it. It needs to be fun. No, it needs to be a routine you do. If you take this mindset, a bad game becomes feedback. You get excited by the fact that, okay, I played bad. Yes, I feel discomfort. I'm going to use that discomfort to motivate me to take the action to get rid of the discomfort by actually solving it, not just numbing yourself, but taking the real action. And so even if it feels boring, you start to notice, okay, well, why am I feeling bored? Maybe it's because I'm trying to avoid the emotions instead of leaning into the fact that I'm not living up to the standard I know I can. Now, if you don't feel discomfort, it probably means that you don't have a high enough standard for your game. If you're scoring a point a game and you feel comfortable, you need to raise your standard to, why can't I get a point and a half a game? And this is a mental shift that you really need to make. This shift is that your standard is never going to be good enough. And I know this sounds weird, but whenever you hit a goal, you should simply say, I appreciate the work I did, take a second to enjoy it, but then realize that the next goal is always going to need to be set. Why this happens is because in our brain, we are basically dopamine machines. Dopamine is the thing that makes us take action. Dopamine also makes us feel generally good and happy and enjoying the moment. But if you don't have a distinct place that you're trying to go towards, then you will start to hit a point where you're like, things are working, things are good. And then you start to get kind of stagnant and flat again. And so to kind of avoid or get out of this flat stage is to realize, yes, it should feel a little bit boring, but then what you need to do is almost create artificial pain by saying, I know I can be better. You basically upgrade your goal, and by upgrading your goal, you now create discomfort again. And so it gets you kind of out of this flat phase, and it means, okay, I'm going to actually choose to feel more discomfort because I set a higher goal, I set a higher standard, but then it pushes you to take action. It brings dopamine into your system, and then you start to look for opportunities opportunities to keep getting better. So as a parent, if your kid's going through this, your job is to help them realize that, yeah, it's good to feel good about your game, but if you really want to be a great player and achieve your bigger goals, you have to raise your current standards and say, you know what, there's always another level to get to, and that's totally cool. It's not about shaming yourself into saying I'm not good enough. It's about being excited by the fact that I can be better, and then raising the standard with excitement, and then pushing through and using that discomfort that you feel to drive you forward. So the key piece here is to raise your standard. When you're feeling discomfort and you're in that pain stage, the goal is to basically get to the boring stage. And then when you get to the boring stage, your goal is to actually then reset the goal again, which is ultimately resetting your identity of the player you know you can be. You increase that, you push that forward, and then that drives you back into discomfort again, which again seems like the wrong thing to do, because ultimately we think, oh, well, I'm going to reach a point where I'm just excited and everything feels good and I'm just the superstar I always knew I could be. I used to think that. That's not what you're going for. What you're actually going for is you are trying to actually create a almost constant discomfort by saying, I can be better. I can be better. That's why guys like Sidney Crosby, guys like Connor Bedard, Macklin Celebrini, look at anybody else who's a great player in the NHL. There's constantly this desire to find the next level, not because they actually think they're broken, but because they know they can be better, which then almost makes them feel like, hey, I'm a little off. Hey, there's more I can do here. And this is what I've had to learn in every stage of every area of my life, whether it was school, whether it was business, whether it was hockey, whether it was even just being like a better friend or a better partner to my wife. It's all the same stuff. It's realizing that once you get to the success, once you do get to that boring stage, the goal is actually to go back into the pain stage again by creating a better identity, a better goal for yourself of who you can be. And that's totally okay to do that. And so if this really hit home for you and you want to learn how to train this to become an instinct and a part of who you are as a hockey player on and off the ice, then click that first link below, watch the video below. It'll explain how our whole system works. And if you feel like it's a fit, you can apply to work with us. We'll look at where you are now, where you want to go. And if we're confident we can help, we'll reach out and we'll tell you how you can take the next steps. I really appreciate you watching this video. Please comment below what your thoughts are. If you thought this was a good video, bad video, too many words, maybe I could have made it shorter. Just tell me what you think. I really do listen to your feedback and try to make better videos. So I appreciate it. Have a great rest of the day, great rest of the week. Talk to you soon.